What's going on, everybody? UCF Jaguar back with GenJag.com, and it is here, guys. The playoffs are here, and for the first time in 10 years, the Jaguars are going to be a part of it. And for the first time since the year 2000, we will actually be hosting a playoff game. So, super high stakes, obviously. Win, move on, lose, and your season is done. So, I'm really excited to preview this game, and I'm really excited for Sunday. So let's go ahead and do it.
It's a foot race. Robinson and Browner, and it's Robinson who wins it. Touchdown, Jacksonville. His 14th win. Bortles with top, looking deep for Robinson.
Now, there's so many storylines behind this game. Both these teams have two really long playoff droughts that are finally snapped. And Buffalo Bills were the longest playoff drought after not making it since 1999. You also have the return of Doug Marrone. Actually, the rematch of Doug Marrone kind of with his former team. Buffalo Bills fans hate Doug Marrone. It's just kind of one of those things where he kind of leaves the team and nobody really knows why. There were some ownership kind of changes where there was a clause in his contract where he could leave and walk away with like $3 million. So he opted to do that, and he really changed his personality a lot in Jacksonville. A lot of the media people just hated Doug Marrone because he was always like on guard and wasn't really that loose of a guy. And really in Jacksonville, you never see any of that kind of stuff because Doug Marrone is just so like laid back. He's always making jokes in press conferences, and I just think he learned a lot from his time with the Bills and just how to be more respectful to the people that he's around. In this game, you also have Blake Bortles and Tyrod Taylor playing against each other. So one of these quarterbacks is going to have a playoff victory when basically none of the teams really seems like they want him. I know Tyrod Taylor from the coaching staff, they basically benched him in favor of Nate Peterman, and then Peterman went in there and then just had one of the worst halves of any quarterback that ever had in the NFL. And, I don't know how the fans feel about Tyrod Taylor. Let me know what you guys, if you're a Bills fan, let me know what you guys think of Tyrod Taylor, and do you think he's a future? And, you have Blake Bortles on the other side, who pretty much 90% of Jaguar fans seem to absolutely hate him. And a lot of the NFL, like you have other players calling out Blake Bortles, and one of these guys is going to have the improbable chance of actually having a playoff victory. You also have Marcel Darius playing his own team. Paul Posluszny playing his old team. With Marcel Darius, a lot of Bills fans just weren't about him. The thing with Marcel Darius is you have a lot higher expectations in a place where you're a top 5 draft pick and you get paid a big hefty contract. And he was put into a role where he was looked on to be a leader, and it doesn't seem like Darius is really that kind of person. He just seems like more of a kind of blend in with his surroundings kind of player, just kind of wants to do his job. And he plays a position, the 3 technique defensive tackle, and he's more of a run stuffer. And, a lot of fans more notice stuff like when he gets sacks, Like he had a double-digit sack one year, I believe, and his production wasn't up to that. Obviously, Darius had a couple of suspensions, and they just didn't, they were just kind of worn thin of him. Then you also have Jalen Ramsey against Kelvin Benjamin, 2 players who played at Florida State together and won a national championship together. So, Jalen Ramsey always has a ton of respect for players that he's played with at Florida State. So I wonder how much trash talking Jalen is going to do this game and just really how that matchup will fare. Now, when you look at the matchup this game, the big thing that's going on right now is the questionable status of whether or not LaShawn McCoy will play. Obviously, last week against the Miami Dolphins, he got carted off with an injury, and he's not going to be 100%. He said himself that he wants to be as close to 100% as he can. Even he knows that he's not going to be 100%. And it's going to be interesting to see how much of an impact he really makes and whether he even plays at all. I think that he will play, like, just because if it's the playoffs and, you want to get as much out of these players as you can. But, like, I don't think he's going to be able to last the whole game, to be honest with you. Like, when you have an ankle sprain, and we've had Allen Hurns basically sit out 6 weeks with an ankle sprain. Marquise Lee has obviously been out about 3 weeks, and with him being kind of a lateral runner, he's going to need to be able to cut. And like Marquise Lee right now is at basically practices basically running like straight and kind of figure eight kind of stuff, not cutting. So if you're a running back, you really need to have your ankles, because that's how you're going to be juking. You know what I mean? That's how you're going to be able to change your direction. So like, it's obviously a huge drop off from LaShawn McCoy. I mean, the second leading rusher on their team is Tyrod Taylor. You know what I mean? They're going to be having a heavy dose of Tolbert this game, and to say that LaShawn McCoy isn't an X factor on their team and doesn't make an impact on this team, you're just lying to yourself. Just because LaShawn McCoy, I think, is one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL. And, you know what I mean, he's been what has led this Buffalo team. Now, Buffalo's quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, is obviously a very dynamic player. You know what I mean? He can hurt you with his arm, with his legs, and he's just as dual threat of a quarterback as you can get. And, you know, he doesn't really turn a ball over much. He makes some good decisions with the ball. He kind of plays in that game manager kind of role. And, you know what I mean, we're going to have to be able to contain Tyrod Taylor, you know, from leaving a pocket and potentially having 10 to 20 yard runs, and, you know, potentially being able to buy a lot of time and having explosive plays downfield, much like Russell Wilson did when we played the Seahawks a few weeks back. Now, I think the Bills are going to want to run the ball a lot this game, just because, you know, they're not a very good passing team, and we happen to have the best duo of cornerbacks in the NFL. So, you know, I think they're going to try to feed the ball to whatever running back they put in there as much as possible to be able to try to get a run game going, to potentially be able to set up for the pass. You know, I can also see Tyrod Taylor, a lot of, you know, design runs for him, just because LaShawn McCoy will probably not have a huge impact on this game. So they're going to have to draw some things up to try to open up their offense. Now, defensively, the Bills are very good against the pass and not so good against the run, especially after that Marcel Darius trade. You know, they have Tre'Davious White, cornerback, probably one of the top 3 defensive rookie of the year prospects, probably competing with Marshawn Lattimore out of the Saints. You know, he's been absolutely terrific. EJ Gaines is also a good cornerback, and I think they might have the best duo of safeties in the NFL. You know, they're very underrated. They're not necessarily household names. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Both these guys are very good players. Each of them have 5 interceptions each. So what the Jaguars are going to do, this is going to be the game where we need to establish the run. We're going to need to run on these guys. I mean, that's the team's weakness. I'd rather not be passing the ball around too much, just because their cornerbacks are able to get a lot of their defensive backs are able to get a lot of takeaways, and that's definitely the strength of their defense. Now, some keys to this game are to win the turnover battle. You don't want to give the Bills the ball in scoring position, you know, with a chance to put points on the board. That's much like what we did against the Titans that ultimately lost the game, basically spotting them 6 points off of turnovers when we eventually lost the game by 5 points. So us giving the ball away like that, putting the defense in bad position, you know, you'd rather just set these guys up at their own 25-yard line and make them chip away at our defense. Another key for this game is to limit explosive plays. Most of the touchdowns on this team have come from plays of 40-plus, yards. Like, I think we have over 12 touchdowns against us this year on explosive plays, and we can't be doing that. You know what I mean? Against Seahawks, a couple of touchdowns came from Russell Wilson getting out of the pocket and finding somebody deep like that in broken coverage. Last week, we had Derrick Henry, basically a screen pass, went for like a 60, 70-yard touchdown. We have to limit the big explosive plays and just keep the players in front of us. Another key is that we need to establish a run. We need to get some kind of run game going if we actually want to make any kind of deep run into the playoffs. That was our bread and butter at the beginning of the year, and quite frankly, it's fallen off a little bit. And Buffalo, they don't have a very good rush defense, so this needs to be the game where we can feed Fournette and just try to get some good gains. You know what I mean? Like, we need to start being able to break up 7-yard runs, 13-yard runs. You know what I mean? Like 10-plus yard runs, that'd be nice. You know what I mean? Like, every once in a while, you can take like a 2-3 yard run, but we need to be able to, every once in a while, be able to break off a big run. And that's kind of what this offense has been missing. Now, I know a lot of Jaguar fans are pretty confident about this game. I mean, granted this was out of the 4 teams that we could have potentially played in this game. Buffalo Bills were the team that I wanted to play, especially now with Shady McCoy out. That'll be like huge for us, but we can't overlook these guys. I mean, if you look at us, we basically clinched the AFC South like a couple weeks ago, basically kind of cruised through the last couple of games, while the Bills, on the other hand, just figured out 4 days ago in their locker room watching the Bengals that they won the playoffs. And this team is a team that's running high on emotions and is just so happy to be in the playoffs. And those are the type of teams that can be dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't overlook teams in the playoffs. And, you know, if the players somehow overlook the Bills, like, I know a lot of people are saying, like, am I worried about that? That the players, you know, might be sitting too comfortable. You know, if the Jags overlook this team and lose, then shame on them. This is the playoffs. You have to prepare for this game more than you would any other game in your, like, in the year. You know what I mean? Like, this is the game. We're at home. You're going to have a huge home field advantage. Obviously, it's like a sellout crowd, as you guys all know. So we need to be able to take advantage of this game and just go out and win it. You know what I mean? It'll be huge for the city of Jacksonville, the Jaguars, obviously, locking out our first playoff win since 2007. And then we could potentially move on to Pittsburgh. And the last team to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh twice was the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2007. So not to look too far ahead, but, you know, we need this victory. Really want to win so we can move on. So with all that said, that's about all I got. Let me know some score predictions for you guys down in the comments section. And with all that said, this is UCF Jaguar with GenJag.com. Go Jaguars, baby, and I'm out.